What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this, I wanted to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to break down what's happening for next week as we have important data coming out. And also what's going on with the data, because once again, guys, things are not looking that great for NIO for the immediate term, especially when looking at technicals. But for the a longer term, I am still very, very bullish. And I do see some very, very big potential for a nice bounce. I'm going to break down more information about this later on. But let me first mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. This offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks. For NIO, unfortunately, even though this thing did have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure, NIO is barely holding the support around this 4.7 area. Now, if we were to lose that, this could easily start tipping lower, and we have this gap to fill all the way down here towards the lower fours. If we lose 4.7, we'll be looking for a dip all the way down here. If we hold this support, we could be looking for a rebound, but overall, there is a risk of it dipping as we have this nice liquidity grab over here, and we are forming kind of like an inverse cup and handle. So I want to be very careful with NIO, at least for now. I want to break down more details about this, though, because we do have other factors affecting us. So for next week, we have quite a bit of data coming out. Monday is going to be a very quiet data day. So is Tuesday, as we just have bill auctions and such. But for Wednesday, we have very important inflationary data coming out. And what's pretty crazy is the fact that we have CPI coming out on Wednesday. And then we also have the FOMC meeting, which is going to be very, very important. So it's pretty wild how we have all of this coming out. The FOMC press conference, Jerome Powell giving his speech, and a bunch of things like this all coming out for Wednesday. It's going to be a massive day. Thursday, we have the PPI data report coming out. And then Friday, we just have Michigan consumer sentiment data. But don't forget, we have CPI coming out for next week for the month of May, not to mention FOMC and PPI. All this data is going to be huge starting on Wednesday. The market's going to go absolutely crazy. Now, for NIO, as you guys know, the reason why the share price is dropping is because when it comes to the way NIO has been telling us things, their earnings were not the best. They missed on revenue. We do have some good news, though. They're entering more collaborations for their charger networks with GAC. And with this happening, they're opening their charging facilities to each other to once again open nice agreements to help one another with their growth and to give their users better experiences and better resources. On top of this, NIO also has been announcing their entrance in the Middle East this year amidst the global expansion by its peers, which is very, very good. It is planning on doing it this year, according to William Lee Binder in earnings. And they also launched their lower price Nvda brand. But a lot of that is going to really affect the NIO share price a little bit later on. So NIO is down right now because we had some bad news for the share price, right? We had some bad news. The earnings were not the best for the first quarter. However, the second quarter is going to end very soon. We have one more month left. And so far, deliveries are just absolutely astonishing. They're going to break their deliveries record most likely. And I think that revenue is going to improve. So I'm very optimistic for the next quarter coming up. But I think things will improve by then as we get to the later period. Yes, we got a little push on NIO, but it's not really lasting. NIO has an inverse cup and handle. The share price is looking kind of weak for the short term, but I see it as another buying opportunity. Once again, guys, we had a very, very strong second quarter projections for NIO based off what they told us. They're expecting to basically more than double their forecasts to about 54,000 to 56,000 total deliveries. And they're expecting a nice increase in revenue. So we're hoping for a very, very strong second quarter to help the share price improve. I think it's going to take some time, but it is what it is, guys. We just have to continue forward nonetheless. On top of all this, I just want to call out that NIO did have some negative news. City has cut its price target. It actually used to be around, pause that. Sorry about that, guys. They're cutting their price targets about $8.50. It used to be $10.40. That's a little bit negative news for the company. With that coming out, things like this happen, but we just have to be optimistic nonetheless. They're also raising their overall estimates, however, which is good for the overall units to be sold, with expectations for 2026 at 390,000. But they did reduce their profit margins. That's the only issue from them. Even though they see a lot of growth coming, their margins are not that great in their opinion. That's why they cut their targets. Now, when it comes to volume at 34 million, a little bit below average, and we still got a buy rating from Citigroup. They are expecting $8.50, which is almost double where we currently are, but they are kind of reducing their overall target compared to before. So that's something that's worth noting. So that being said, what do I see for the share price? We're barely holding this 4.7 support. If we lose this, we could be dipping all the way down to fill this gap in the much lower fours. If we hold above 4.7, we could be bouncing and pushing back up to the fives. But overall, we're looking more bearish as we have an inverse cup and handle like structure and more potential downside. So in my opinion, I would say that NIO, even though this had a slanted inverse head and shoulders, it's not really holding out too well. And after this negative earnings, yes, there is going to likely be a dip, but this is not the end of the world because this provides more opportunities for buying for the long term because I am still a big bull for what's about to come. Looking at Onvo and looking at their increased sales volume, I'm still very excited for what the long-term future holds. For SPY, I just wanted to call out that SPY is still bullish overall. We have a very, very nice uptrend being established right here. We're gonna have to watch and see if we could hold this trend line. It looks to me like it might actually dip a bit and actually fail to do so. So it's a little bit negative looking, but we'll just be very, very patient and optimistic nonetheless. So we'll see if SPY ends up losing this support at 534. If that's the case, I could be looking for either 531.5 to be retested, if not 529, then a bounce after that. But it makes sense to be testing 529 and bouncing because this is where the previous breakout was. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually dip a little bit lower on SPY than try to bounce, and we'll see how things go going into next week. But overall, the charts are still bullish for a little dip and bounce. It's still going to be fine. The QQQ is going to likely dip to at least 460, if not 456, somewhere within this range. This is where we got the breakout right here. Sometimes we get these little drops, and then we try to bounce afterwards. So I do see a little bit of a pullback coming, a little bit more before we try to bounce. Apple's looking bullish amidst the very, very important meetings coming up for next week involving AI. So the share price still looks bullish relative to the market. And I think we could get closer to 200 going into next week. Tesla, it's holding up very well, still trading sideways, very, very choppy. But regardless if we get a little drop or not, with the shareholder meeting and votes coming out, I wouldn't be surprised if we get an inverse head and shoulders and a breakout. I think next week is going to be pretty big for Tesla. If we break past 180 and close above it, if we break past 185, we're easily going to be pushing into the 200s, in my opinion, and I'll turn very, very bullish. For other tickers, just want to call out Supermicro. Supermicro is once again on the 4 hour, kind of looking a little bit more bearish. Could be tipping all the way down to 750 all over again for a little bit more downside. So with this head and shoulders, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up tipping lower, and there is a risk of it dipping to 750 all over again. For a few more, AMC and GameStop are both looking kind of weak. They got halted quite a bit today, and they failed to really hold their levels. If we since we actually got below the 50 EMA, there is a risk of it coming down to fill the gap at 23. AMC is also at risk of dipping lower to fill this gap all the way down towards 4.36. So I'll be watching to see what the moves are. But with that being said, guys, that's what I'm seeing for the markets. As far as NIO goes, with the dip potentially coming to the markets, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually dip a little bit as well for NIO, but things could bounce after FOMC and such. So this looks more bearish to me. I think NIO is easily coming down to 4.7 next week. If we lose that, then we do have this gap to fill down here. After that fills, then we could get a bounce, but that's what I'm seeing for now, guys. So just be prepared for this and just know it's not the end of the world because projections are still very strong for the second quarter. And with Onvo coming out in more bullish catalysts, such as them expanding to the Middle East soon, that's going to be bullish overall. All right. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day. Enjoy the weekend. I will not be back tomorrow. I'm going to be taking a break on Saturday, so I'll be back on Sunday to give you guys another update. But until then, take care, guys, and peace out.